Balake, where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here once again with my attorney friend Zach Morgan. How's it going?
Good, Aaron. I hope everybody's warm here in Oklahoma, where I live. It's a bit icy. All local schools have closed, and so unless you get your skates with you, everybody's sort of hunkered down at home.
So you guys don't have snow days; you guys have ice days.
Essentially, I think we get pretty snow about once a decade, and we get awful ice about every other year. So I guess we're in the other part of the every other year.
Incredible. Well, what I wanted to talk to you about today was the Lisa Marie Presley, Priscilla Presley situation. What's been reported in the news that Priscilla Presley was shocked to find that she had been cut out of Lisa Marie's will. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this is because people keep correcting how I'm talking about this. They say it's not a will, it's an estate, or it's a trust. And honestly, it's a little confusing because I'm just going to read right from his CNN headline right here. It says, Priscilla Presley is contesting validity of Lisa Marie Presley's will.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess you can help us to understand the difference between will and trust and estate. The questions that I get about this have to do with Scientology. Do you think Scientology is behind this? Did Lisa Marie cut Priscilla Presley out because Lisa Marie had left Scientology and Priscilla was still in? And all this kind of stuff. And also, is it Lisa Marie Presley's estate that we're talking about? Is it Elvis's estate? It gets really confusing. What can you help us understand about this?
So ultimately, whether it's a will or a trust, it's an end-of-life document that guides what happens to people's things when they die. Every state allows for both wills and for trusts. It's a significant area. It's probably 50, maybe 60% of my current legal practice is in the area of wills, trusts, and estate plans. We sort of group those three together because they sort of go hand in hand. And both of them accomplish the same goal, which is the disposition of the things a person owns after they die. But a trust does it one way and a will does it different. So it accomplishes it should have a similar outcome, but it's done two different ways. Most commonly is the will, and it's, the famous, I leave everything to the cat, right? Well, I guess it's technically feasible in some jurisdictions, but it's not done commonly. A will is a document, and let me preface this by saying these are general legal rules. So for your viewers out there, I encourage you a couple of things. Get your estate in order while you're young. You can always make changes to it as you get older, but do that earlier rather than later. And secondly, what I'm saying are general rules. There may be some nuanced differences in the various jurisdictions where your visitors live. So please consult with an estate planning attorney in your jurisdiction if you're interested. Now, specifically as it pertains to Lisa Marie, whether it's a will or a trust ultimately doesn't matter. The way it plays out sort of does, but it doesn't. The disposition doesn't matter. A will is a document that is prepared generally by an attorney, although there is an exception we'll talk about. And the statutes in each state are very specific. And so if you don't follow everything to the letter of the law, then somebody can come back later and challenge it. So every state has a spousal provision that says if you leave your spouse out of your will, they have the right to take. In one of my jurisdictions that I practice, if I don't want to leave my children anything, I can't just not say their name. I have to specifically say I have X number of children, their names are, and I intentionally and willfully leave them nothing. If I'm just silent on the issue, my children can challenge it, and then they're entitled to the statutory child's take. Where it gets tricky with people like Lisa Marie, it's more than just money. She's also conveying the intellectual property rights to the name, image, and likeness of Elvis Presley. When Elvis still sells records, even though he's been deceased for close to 60 years, Elvis still sells records every year. Graceland, his mansion and estate in Memphis, still generates millions of dollars in revenue from visitors coming through the property each year. So there's still a tremendous value to Elvis Presley's name, just as there's tremendous value to Michael Jackson's name. Michael Jackson continues to sell records years after he passed away. So the value of the estate isn't in the amount of money she has in the bank. It's the access to the intellectual property rights of Elvis Presley and all these various Elvis Presley enterprises and things.
So let me ask you a specific question here.
Sure.
Because one of the things that prompted comments correcting what I was saying was something I said about why would a parent expect a child to leave things to them in their will? Things usually flow downhill in that sense, not uphill. Why would Priscilla be surprised that some right to whatever we're talking about here, whether it's the estate or money, whatever, flowed downhill to Riley instead of uphill to her?
Well, it could be any number of things. It's hard to know specifically. You know, at some point, if there's a formal pleading filed in the will contest, then we would know exactly what the claim is. I suspect it could have been yesterday. It could have, or the day before she passed away. It could have been 50 years ago. At some point, Lisa Marie may have told her mother, "Hey, when I die, I'm gonna leave it all to you if you're still alive." I can say that all I want to, but if I don't put it in writing and I don't follow the statutory protocol, it doesn't matter what I say. It matters what's in writing. And that's why it requires things like 2 witnesses. It requires a notary public. It requires that the witnesses not be related to the person signing it. So, for example, I could not legally prepare my wife's will. Even though I'm capable of doing it, if I'm going to inherit from the will, I can't prepare it under my jurisdiction. You know, most jurisdictions have an ethical thing similar to that. The other thing is the way I explain the difference between a will and a trust. Think of a trust like a business. When a business owner dies, the business doesn't stop functioning without them. There should be a provision in the way the business is formed, either in the articles of incorporation, or if it's a corporation, or the articles of organization, if it's like a limited liability company or a partnership, that says if the partner or the shareholder dies, here's what happens. And a trust is essentially like a business. Elvis stopped performing after he, obviously when he died, and yet Elvis Presley, the name, continues to make money. And so the trust is handled much like a business. And when I prepare a trust, I actually do both. I prepare the documents that govern the trust, and I also prepare what's called a pour-over will that says, in the event I forgot something, or in the event they buy something later or acquire an asset in the future that is not specifically provided for in the trust, when I die, when that person dies, their will leaves everything in their will to the trust. So we pour it over into the trust. That's what we call a pour over will.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. So here's some more language from the CNN article here. So it says, in a court filing obtained by CNN, attorneys for Priscilla Presley filed a petition disputing a 2016 amendment to her daughter's will. I think it's interesting that, this isn't like the week before she died or something like that. The petition states that Lisa Marie Presley removed her mother and her former business manager, Barry Siegel, as co-trustees. So this is where I'm going to ask for some clarification on this. So the will, she removed from her will, naming Priscilla and Barry as co-trustees and replaced them with her children, Riley and Benjamin Keogh. Benjamin Keogh later died in 2020. The petition alleges that, among other issues surrounding the amendment, Priscilla Presley did not receive the amendment while her daughter was alive as required by her trust, and that the document misspells Priscilla's name. That's a little suspicious. The petition also alleges the amendment was not witnessed or notarized. That's suspicious, and questions the authenticity of Lisa Marie's signature. What do you make of what's being reported here?
Sure. So first off, there's conflicting terms in there, and part of this may be I call it journalistic error. It's not done intentionally, and it's not done as a result of poor journalistic research. It's just a journalist who's not a lawyer getting confused on terms. Trustees exist for trusts. Personal representatives exist in wills. So it cannot be the trustee to a will. It can be the trustee to a trust, or it can be the PR, the personal representative to a will. So they're sort of confusing these two terms, but ultimately it doesn't matter. If it's a will, it's a personal representative. If it's a trust, it's a trustee. And the changing of personal representatives and the changing of trustees is fairly commonplace. I have clients who, for example, I have a client. He has 3 children. 2 are adults. 1 is a minor. right now, his two oldest are co-successor trustees in the event that his wife dies also. But as soon as his minor child becomes an adult, then the three of his children all become co-successor trustees. So there's sort of these different triggering events. It's very much like a contract, a business contract. This happens if and only if these things happen, and when this, right, sort of these little varying trigger events. However, if in fact there are statutory deficiencies with the documents, then that very well may be a valid challenge. I don't know. I haven't seen them. I don't know what the law is. The other thing is, I don't know what state is even governing this document, because she obviously has financial interests in the state of Tennessee. She has financial interests in the state of California. So I don't know if these documents were prepared under California law or whether they were prepared under Tennessee law or some other state. And it could have been Delaware. Who knows? A lot of business dealings are done under Delaware state law for a variety of reasons. And so it is not uncommon to see the people who are going to be in charge of enforcing the will or the trust after, in this case, Lisa Marie dies. It is not uncommon to see those people get swapped out. But there is a procedure for doing that to make it legally valid. And if those procedures were not followed, it certainly gives rise to a possible claim that there is, that it could be improper. Now, I don't worry too much about the misspelling of Priscilla's name. Of course, this was Lisa Marie's mother. I've misspelled my own name on the signature block when I, as a lawyer, sign it. Now, if we're doing a good job in proofreading our documents and having our support staff, our paralegals, and other lawyers in the firm review our work before we present it for execution, things like this shouldn't happen. But I will also tell you that things are misspelled all the time. Even in billion-dollar documents, there's words that are misspelled, and those are called Scrivener's errors. It's, hey, I just can't spell my way out of a wet paper bag, and I use the wrong there. I could use the wrong there, and spell check wouldn't catch it because it's spelled correctly. It's just it's the wrong use of the word.
Right. So if I'm correct, I'm no, historian on the Elvis, the life of Elvis Presley and what happened after his death. I've been told that Elvis pretty much left everything to Lisa Marie and not Priscilla. Do you happen to know if that's true?
It is.
Okay.
So yeah, so everything was left to Priscilla, who at the time was a minor.
To Lisa Marie.
Sorry, yes, to Lisa Marie, who at the time was a minor. I believe, and you're gonna have a bunch of Elvis fans out there who can help me if I'm wrong, but I believe that until Lisa Marie obtained the age of majority and took over the handling of the estate, I do believe that Priscilla handled that estate, Elvis's estate, not in her individual capacity, but as the guardian and the ward of Lisa Marie during Lisa Marie's minorship.
So, and this is where I'm going to be clumsy with the language, so
Sure.
Feel free to correct me on this. Would Priscilla at that time have been acting as a trustee of Elvis's estate?
No. She would have been acting as Lisa Marie's guardian, which means she has to act in Lisa Marie's best interest. So let's say, and I'm making this up, but let's say after Elvis's passing, before Lisa Marie turned the age of majority, Priscilla was managing Elvis's estate, and it became in Priscilla's best interest to sell. So let's say to sell a jumpsuit or something, one of Elvis's outfits for a significant sum of.
Zach hit the wrong button. I could tell Zach swiped away a notification. I think that's what happened. And instead he swiped his way right on out of the live stream. So we're going to hang tight because he'll be back in a second. Zach, I can hear you. Okay, there you are. I can hear you.
Okay. I got you back now.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know what happened, but anyway, we got it fixed. And so if at some point it became in Priscilla's best financial interest to sell an asset of Elvis's for some significant sum of money, but it would have been detrimental to Lisa Marie's best interest in allowing that particular item to continue to appreciate in value, or it would have been better to cash out an account rather than to invest the sums of an account. It would have been in Priscilla's best interest individually to do one thing, but in Lisa Marie's best interest to do something else. She has to act in Lisa Marie's best interest as the guardian. Just like it may be in mom's best interest to send kid to the neighborhood school, but it may be in the child's best interest to go to a private school that specializes in children with disabilities or something.
Interesting. So it stands to reason Lisa Marie inherited pretty much everything from Elvis. I still go back to that point of like, I'm thinking to myself, Priscilla, Elvis didn't even leave you his stuff. Why would Lisa Marie?
Exactly. And it's also possible too that Lisa Marie very well may have left her mother something, but ultimately the value in the estate, even though Lisa Marie had significant sums of money, I'm sure I have no reason to believe that she died dead broke. That just doesn't make any logical sense to me. Assuming she died with significant sums of cash in the bank, you as a business person understand that the value of something isn't the cash in the bank today, it's the future earning potential tomorrow. And it could also have been that Lisa Marie no longer wanted access to the long-term revenue generation as opposed to some specific asset today. I will also say that it is not surprising that after the oldest child turned the age of majority, and I don't keep up with Lisa Marie. I'm not sure of who all of her children are on their various ages, but I know at least Riley is of the age of majority. She's at least 18. And I don't know how old Benjamin was at the time of his passing, but it's not uncommon to, at the time of children reaching the age of majority, for parents to go back and amend or modify their end-of-life documents to reflect their changes. I tell people all the time, listen, you can select whatever you want to when I write this document, and if you change your mind tomorrow, we can change it. The only time we can no longer change is after you die. At that point, we're stuck with whatever's there.
Right. Okay. One specific detail is
Sure.
being named a trustee. Are you a trustee of a trust, or can you be a trustee of an estate? Is being a trustee of an estate something that doesn't match up?
Yeah, sort of. You would be the executor of the estate. They essentially are the same thing. They're just different names. But just because I am the trustee or the executor doesn't mean I actually get to inherit anything.
That's actually where I'm going with this question, is that when I'm taking a closer look at the language that CNN uses here, it doesn't even sound like Priscilla's complaining that she didn't inherit stuff. She's complaining that she was removed as a co-trustee. That's a distinction that matters, right?
It is, because I'm the trustee of a trust under which I stand to gain nothing. I don't inherit anything from the trust. A person reached out and said, I need somebody to be the trustee after I pass away because I have family that live all over the country and I don't want to have my poor husband trying to deal with all this after I pass. Are you willing to serve in this capacity? I said, yes. That position may pay, but in every document I've ever prepared, everybody has said, all my clients have always said, I don't want my trustee to be paid. They don't get paid for this service. If they have to expend any money, if they have to hire an accountant to prepare the books, if they have to hire an attorney to go to court and probate something, if they have to hire an appraiser to value a home or hire an auction company to conduct an estate sale, then they're entitled to get paid back for those expenses. It is not against the law for somebody to receive compensation, but it is also not required that they be compensated for serving as the executor or the trustee either.
Right. Super interesting. So it does make me wonder, what are the benefits or privileges that Priscilla would have had as a co-trustee that she's now making such a legal fuss about having been removed? That's where it starts to feel really
So the trustee would certainly have access to not just balance sheets and account balances, but also insight into how the money was spent, who was being hired to manage different things. Obviously, the Elvis Presley estate, Graceland, and all of his record sales and album sales, etc., his trademarks and his copyrights, and obviously there's going to be a company hired to manage that, and who's the company hired to manage it? How are they being paid? How much are they being paid? And there may also be certain provisions that, for example, whoever is in charge of this has access to, a private jet or has access to certain compensation. But more importantly, it's a look into the interior privacy of someone's life. And so it could be one of those that if Lisa Marie decided, even though my mom was married to Elvis for a time, she doesn't have access to the books. Natural curiosity, and this is pure speculation. I have no reason to independently know this. It's just me shooting in the dark here. There's a natural curiosity. What is Elvis's estate worth today? How much is the king of rock and roll worth 50, 60 years later?
Yeah. Interesting. People ask, what is Scientology's role in all this? And it's very hard to say. It has been said, it is known, Lisa Marie Presley and Priscilla Presley did not have a great relationship in general. And Scientology is part of the reason for that. Not that Scientology drove a wedge between them, but that as a Scientology parent, Priscilla Presley was not a very good parent to Lisa Marie. Pretty much just offloaded her to any Scientology school or organization or Scientologist that she could offload her to. And that was something that Lisa Marie was reportedly very upset about later in life. Just what a bad mother Priscilla had been. So just as an observer and someone who has a little bit of information on the fringe, it doesn't shock me that Lisa Marie would remove her mother as a trustee and put her daughter that she was very, very close with, I believe, to leave her on there. But, and also it's not even entirely clear whether Priscilla went back to Scientology or not. Lisa Marie had left Scientology. She never really went back, but she was sort of blackmailed into keeping her mouth shut while her very ugly divorce proceedings were going on. It's been reported that when Lisa Marie left Scientology, Priscilla and Riley left with her, but it's also somewhat been reported that it's possible Priscilla and Riley kind of went back. So all that's very, very unclear. You add the lack of clarity regarding the Scientology component onto the lack of clarity regarding wills, trusts, estates, and all this kind of stuff. And I can understand why people are so confused. I mean, hell, I'm still confused, but I feel better about it now than I did 30 minutes ago.
Well, and it's one of those too that even if, let's assume that for the sake, the law would say, assuming arguendo, assuming for the sake of discussion that it is properly challenged and deemed invalid by some court somewhere. That doesn't undo everything. It undoes that amendment to the will or to the trust. It just goes back in time to the last document that was executed. Now, theoretically, you could challenge every one of them one at a time. That's not going to happen. And just because if we assume that Priscilla were to be reinstated as a trustee or as an executor, depending on the document itself, as I mentioned before, doesn't automatically mean that she inherits anything.
Right. Great point. Okay, we got a couple comments here. Dave Owens, Zach, boomer sooner. Okay, so that's a college football thing?
It is. So Oklahoma State University is the America's brightest orange, as they say. The University of Oklahoma's mascot is the Sooners. And for those who don't know, 150 years ago, there were some horrendous acts against Native Americans where the white people stole all the land and literally gave it to white people. The government took the land from the natives, gave it to the white people, and they were called boomers. And it was a land run. Literally, a gun went off and you grabbed your plot of land and you improved it and got it for free. The people who jumped the gun were called Sooners. So the literal mascot is, we are advertising that we cheated. So congratulations, Mr. Owens, you cheated.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's a history I didn't know. Okay, let's see. Oh, another one from Dave Owens. Does Scientology try to get folks to leave the Scientology organization money in their wills? Yes, but it's not like there's some institutional concerted effort to do that. But it does get done. It does get done, and many wealthy members do end up leaving Scientology a lot of money in their wills. It's not like a standard thing where you're just expected to, but yeah, that is a thing. All right, let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, everybody. Looks like that's all we've got. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching until the very end. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,